You've stood in front of that mirror more times than you can count, wondering why your hair looks tired even on your best days. That's not age catching up with you. That's the wrong haircut working against you every single morning. I research worst style and beauty mistakes and youth-boosting fixes for mature women, so you get simple, proven transformations that work instantly. Today we're perfecting 7 rejuvenating haircuts to look 10 years younger, rich and elegant at 50 plus 3 things to avoid. And by part 4, you'll want to pause and look in the mirror. I mean it. We're covering 7 cuts that instantly lift your face, and 3 you need to walk away from today. The very first haircut? It's the one colorists wish every woman knew about. Let's go. 1. The soft layered bob. Picture this. You get your haircut, you love it for exactly 1 week, and then it just falls flat again like it forgot the shape it was supposed to hold. That's not your hair's fault. That's a cut that was never built for your face shape or your texture. Here's the key insight nobody tells you. Most stylists default to a blunt, one-length cut for mature women because it's fast and safe, not because it's flattering. Blunt lines drag every feature downward. The soft layer bob does the opposite. This one is everything. The soft layer bob uses movement around the chin and cheekbone to lift your whole face instead of weighing it down. Here's why it works when nothing else has. Fix 1. Ask your stylist for layers that start at the cheekbone, not the chin, because that's where the lift actually happens. Fix 2. Request a diagonal forward layer near the face frame, since a straight across layer ages you and a diagonal one softens you. Fix 3. Keep the length grazing just below the jaw, not at it, because that single inch changes how your neck reads on camera. Fix 4. Ask for texturizing shears on the ends only, never through the crown, so you keep body without losing shape. Fix 5, and this one surprised even me. Request slightly shorter layers on one side if your face isn't perfectly symmetrical, because almost nobody's is. If you're still wearing your hair one length past the shoulders with no shape at all, swap it for this layered bob and watch how differently light falls across your cheekbones. If you're getting blunt bangs cut straight across, swap them for soft side swept layers instead, because straight bangs on mature skin can look severe rather than soft. Honestly, I wish someone had told me about the cheekbone layer trick years before I ever heard it from a colorist backstage at a shoot. Maintenance is simple here. A light trim every 8 to 10 weeks keeps those face framing layers sharp, because layers grow out faster than blunt cuts and lose their lift. You needed to hear this. Your bone structure has been hiding under the wrong shape for longer than you realized, and this cut brings it back into the light where it belongs. The transformation friends actually notice isn't your color, it's your shape. And the next haircut on this list does something even more dramatic for round and square face shape specifically, so if that's you, don't skip it. 2. The curtain layers. Have you ever wondered why some women in their 60s look effortlessly put together while their hair barely seems styled at all? It's not luck. It's curtain layers, and almost nobody over 50 is asking for them. Here's the surprising part. Curtain layers were popularized by younger influencers, so most mature women assume they're not for them. That assumption is costing you a decade of visual age. Curtain layers part the hair naturally around the face and taper outward like soft parentheses framing your eyes. That's the entire secret. Fix 1. Ask for layers that begin above the eyebrow and sweep outward, never straight down, because straight down bangs on mature faces can emphasize forehead lines rather than soften them. Fix 2. Request longer pieces near the temple that blend into the rest of your length, so there's no harsh line anywhere. This one is everything. Fix 3, and this matters more than people think. Ask your stylist to check your natural part and cut the layers to follow it, not fight it. Fix 4. Keep some weight near the cheekbone rather than thinning it completely, because too much thinning can look sparse on finer mature hair. Fix 5. Request a slight curve at the ends using a round brush during blowouts, since curtain layers are activated by styling, not just cutting. Swap flat, pinned back bangs for soft curtain layers that move with your face. Swap heavy blunt fringe for something with air and light passing through it, because that light is what makes your eyes look brighter on camera and in person. There is one styling detail that changes everything about how this cut photographs, and it's simply the direction you point your blow dryer while finishing the front pieces. Maintenance here is light. A quick trim every 6 weeks keeps the taper from growing into your eyes, and a round brush touch-up in the morning is all it takes to reactivate the shape. Your natural elegance was never the problem. The wrong fringe was just standing in front of it. Part 3 is where we talk about the cut most stylists are afraid to recommend to women over 60, and it might be exactly the one you've been avoiding. 3. The long layered shag. Stop for a second. If you've been told your whole life that long hair isn't appropriate past a certain age, I need you to unlearn that right now. That advice was never based on beauty. It was based on convenience for stylists who didn't want to deal with layering longer lengths correctly. The long layered shag is the answer nobody hands you. It keeps length while building movement throughout, so the hair never sits flat or heavy. Fix 1. Ask for heavily blended layers throughout the mid-lengths, not just at the ends because shag layering happens all through the hair, not only at the bottom. Fix 2. Request texture using a razor or point cutting technique, rather than blunt shears, since that's what gives shags their signature softness. Yes, that's simple. Fix 3. Keep face framing pieces slightly shorter than the rest to draw the eye upward toward your cheekbones. Fix 4. Ask for a soft curved fringe if your forehead allows it, because shags were built around movement at the front. Fix 5. Request a slightly undone finish rather than a sleek blowout, because shags photograph best with texture, not smoothness. If you're wearing long hair completely one length with zero layering, swap it for a shag before you swap anything else on this list. If you've been avoiding volume products because your hair is long and you fear it looking bigger, swap that fear for a lightweight texturizing spray instead, since shags are built to hold soft volume without looking heavy. This is the one that made a friend of mine stop mid-conversation and ask what changed about my whole face, not just my hair. Maintenance means a trim every 10 to 12 weeks to keep the shag shape from growing shapeless, plus a texturizing product on damp hair before you even reach for heat tools. You've earned the right to wear your hair exactly as long as you want. The next cut on this list is for something completely different. It's for anyone dealing with thinning at the crown, and it might be the most requested fix I get. 4. The textured pixie crop. This one's different from everything we've covered so far because it's bold, and boldness is exactly what most women over 50 have been talked out of. That safe mindset is the real mistake. The textured pixie crop isn't about being safe. It's about being seen. Here's what nobody explains about thinning hair. Shorter cuts with texture create the illusion of density, because there's less hair weight pulling strands flat against the scalp. That's the whole science behind why pixies work so well at this stage of life. Fix 1. Ask for texturizing on top only, leaving enough length to style upward for volume, because flat-cropped pixies can look severe rather than soft. Fix 2. Request longer pieces at the crown specifically, since height there is what creates the illusion of thickness everywhere else. Fix 3, and this is the one people skip, ask for a slightly asymmetrical fringe rather than a symmetrical one, because asymmetry photographs more naturally on mature faces. Fix 4, keep the sides close but not shaved, since a soft taper reads more elegant than a severe one. Fix 5, request matte texture paste rather than shine serum for styling, because shine can highlight thinning areas while matte texture disguises them. Swap tight, pulled back styles for this cropped, textured shape, and swap heavy volumizing mousse for a lightweight texture paste applied only at the roots. There is one thing about this cut that surprises almost every woman who tries it. It takes less time to style each morning than anything you've worn in the last decade. You needed to hear this. Bold does not mean harsh, and short does not mean giving anything up. Maintenance is refreshingly simple. Just a trim every 4 to 6 weeks to keep the shape crisp, since pixies grow out faster than any other cut on this list. Part 5 brings us to a cut built specifically for round and square face shapes, and it solves a problem I hear about constantly in the comments. 5. The angled lob with side part. You've tried everything. Different lengths, different partings, different products, and still that same nagging feeling that something about your hair isn't quite working with your face. Here's the truth. It's not your hair. It's your part. Most women part their hair exactly where they did in their 20s, never realizing their face shape has shifted since then. The angled lob paired with a deep side part corrects that instantly. Fix 1. Ask for length that angles slightly longer in the front than the back, because that diagonal line elongates round and square faces beautifully. Fix 2. Request a deep side part rather than a center part, since a deep part creates a symmetry that flatters almost every mature face shape. Fix 3. Keep the back slightly shorter and more compressed for a polished silhouette from every angle. This one is everything. Fix 4. Ask for soft layering only at the front pieces near the part, so the heavier side has movement instead of stiffness. Fix 5. Request a light bevel at the ends for a subtle inward curve, because that curve softens the jawline more than any product ever could. If you're still center parting hair that hangs straight down both sides, swap it for this deep side part angled lob and notice how differently your whole face reads within seconds. If you've been curling your ends outward, swap that for an inward curve instead, since inward movement is what creates that soft, lifted look. There is one thing about a deep side part that changes how people perceive your entire face within seconds of meeting you. It has to do with which side catches the light first, and your stylist can identify that in under a minute. Maintenance means keeping the part fresh by switching sides occasionally to prevent flatness at the root, and a trim every 8 weeks to hold the angle. This next cut is the one I get asked about more than almost any other, especially from women dealing with fine, fragile strands that just won't hold a curl anymore. 6. The silver feathered shag. Here's a question worth sitting with for a second. When did you last let your gray or silver hair just be itself, without fighting it into submission with flat irons and smoothing serums? For most women over 50, the answer is, I can't even remember. That's the mistake hiding in plain sight. Silver and gray hair has a coarser, more textured structure than pigmented hair, and flattening it removes the exact quality that makes it look luminous instead of dull. The silver feathered shag works with that texture instead of erasing it. Fix 1. Ask for feathered ends throughout rather than blunt ones, because feathering catches light differently on silver strands and creates natural shine. Fix 2. Request layers that start higher on the crown than a typical shag, since silver hair holds shape better with lift built in early. Fix 3, and here's the one most women skip. Ask your colorist about a soft lowlight in champagne or pearl tones woven through the silver, because pure flat gray can wash out warmer skin tones. This one is everything. Fix 4. Keep the ends slightly rougher and less polished during styling, letting natural texture show rather than smoothing everything down. Fix 5. Request a diffuser attachment recommendation from your stylist for at-home drying, because diffusing enhances the natural wave pattern silver hair often develops. If you're still reaching for a flat iron on silver hair every morning, swap it for a diffuser and a texturizing spray instead. If you've been avoiding lowlights because you think silver should stay pure, swap that mindset for one soft dimensional tone, and watch how radiant your whole complexion looks afterward. Honestly, the first time I saw silver hair styled this way instead of flat ironed into submission, I didn't recognize how much brighter a face could look. There is one detail about silver hair care that most women never hear from their colorist. It has to do with how often you're actually supposed to use purple shampoo, and most women are doing it completely backward. Maintenance means alternating a purple or blue tone shampoo once a week with a hydrating mask, since overtoning can leave silver hair looking dull and flat instead of luminous. You needed to hear this one especially because the 7th and final haircut on this list is the one I saved for a reason, and it might be the most requested transformation I've ever covered. 7. The rounded graduated bob. This is it. The final haircut on this list, and I promise you it's worth the wait. If you've been scrolling through every style hoping one would finally check every box, this might be the one. The rounded graduated bob builds gentle layers at the back that stack shorter underneath and longer on top, creating a soft rounded silhouette instead of a sharp geometric one. Fix 1. Ask for graduation at the nape specifically, since that stacking is what gives the cut its signature rounded shape from behind. Fix 2. Request the front pieces left slightly longer than the back for a soft asymmetrical frame around your jaw. Yes, that's simple. Fix 3. Ask your stylist to point cut the very ends rather than blunt cutting them, because that softens the overall silhouette without losing the rounded structure. Fix 4, and this one matters more than most people realize, request a slight inward curve when styling, since graduated bobs are designed to curve toward the face rather than flip outward. Fix 5. Ask for the crown to be left with a little extra volume rather than compressed flat, because this cut relies on height up top to balance the roundness below. Swap flat ironing your ends outward for a round brush blowout that curves them inward instead, because that single styling change is what makes a graduated bob look expensive rather than accidental. Swap an overgrown, shapeless length for this soft rounded structure, and notice immediately how much more polished you look even without makeup. There is one reason this cut works on almost every face shape that most stylists never explain clearly. It's because the graduation itself creates the illusion of a rounder or more oval shape, regardless of your actual bone structure. Softening angles and balancing width. This is the one that made a friend of mine ask if I'd had work done, when all I changed was my haircut. Maintenance is simple. A trim every 6 to 8 weeks to preserve the stacking at the nape before it grows out and loses shape. 7 cuts down. Now we're switching gears completely because the next 3 parts cover something just as important as what to get. They cover exactly what to avoid, starting with a mistake I see in almost every comment section. 8. Avoid the one-length blunt cut past the shoulders. Let's talk about the mistake that ages more women over 50 than almost anything else on this entire list. If your hair falls one length straight down with zero shape past your shoulders, I need you to really hear this next part. Here's the key insight nobody tells you. Weight at the ends of one-length hair pulls the whole face downward, dragging at the cheeks, the jaw, even the eyes without you ever realizing it's happening. It's not the length itself that's the problem. It's the total absence of shape. Fix 1. If you love long hair, that's wonderful, just make sure it has layering built through the mid-lengths, not just a trim at the ends. Fix 2. Ask your stylist to remove weight specifically around the face, even if you keep length everywhere else. Fix 3. Avoid asking for just a trim, because that phrase usually means the stylist repeats the same shapeless cut you already have. This one is everything. Fix 4. Request internal layers you can't necessarily see, but can absolutely feel, since those are what create movement without changing your visible length. Fix 5. Bring a photo of texture and shape you like, not just length, because most women only communicate length to their stylist and never shape. If you're currently wearing one-length hair with heavy, blunt ends, swap that phrase "just a trim" for "add movement through the mid-lengths" at your next appointment. If you've been avoiding layers because you fear losing length, swap that fear for internal layering instead, since it preserves length while still adding lift. Honestly, I used to think healthy hair meant 0 layers and 0 cutting, and I was wrong for years. There is one phrase you can say to any stylist that instantly signals you want shape, not just length maintained. And it's simply asking for movement, not a trim. Maintenance means requesting that internal layering be refreshed every few appointments, even if your visible length barely changes, because those inner layers are what keep your face lifted. You needed to hear this one especially because mistake number 2 is something almost every woman does the morning after washing her hair, and it's quietly undoing everything a good haircut gives her. 9. Avoid over-drying with high heat and no protection. Have you ever wondered why your haircut looks incredible the day you leave the salon and noticeably worse just 2 days later? It's rarely the cut itself. It's almost always what happens the next morning with your blow dryer. Mature hair has thinner strands and less natural moisture than it did decades ago, which means high heat breaks down the protein structure far faster than it used to. That's the surprising truth. You're not doing anything wrong on purpose. You just never got the memo that your hair changed and your routine didn't. Fix 1. Lower your dryer's heat setting by at least 1 full level, since mature hair rarely needs maximum heat to dry effectively. Fix 2. Always apply a heat protectant before any hot tool touches your hair. No exceptions, even on days you're in a hurry. Fix 3, and this one surprised me too, dry your hair 80% of the way with a microfiber towel before ever picking up a blow dryer, because less direct heat time means less damage overall. Fix 4. Finish every blow dry with a cool shot setting to seal the cuticle and lock in shine. Fix 5. Invest in one quality ionic dryer rather than several cheap ones, because ionic technology reduces frizz and heat damage simultaneously. Swap your highest heat setting for a medium one, and notice the difference within a single wash. Swap skipping heat protectant just this once, for making it a non-negotiable first step every single time, because that one habit alone preserves months of healthy growth. This is the one that made my own sister text me asking what product I'd started using, when all I changed was my dryer's heat setting. Yes, that's simple. There is one detail about ionic dryers that nobody explains at the store when you're buying one. It has to do with the negative ion count actually printed on the box, and higher isn't always better for fine mature strands. Maintenance means replacing your heat protectant every few months, since some formulas lose effectiveness once opened and exposed to air repeatedly. Your bone structure deserves better than heat damage undoing a beautiful cut. And the final mistake on this list is one you're probably making with your hair elastic, of all things, without ever suspecting it. 10. Avoid the wrong hair elastic in too tight styles. This last one sounds small. It isn't. If you've ever taken your hair down from a ponytail or clip and noticed a strange dent or crease sitting right where the elastic was, this mistake is quietly aging your hairline more than you realize. Here's what almost nobody explains. Tight elastics and tight styles put consistent tension on hair follicles that have already thinned with age, and that repeated pulling can gradually stress the hairline over time. It's not dramatic. It's slow, quiet, and completely reversible once you know what's happening. Fix 1. Swap standard fabric-covered elastics for silk scrunchies or spiral cord elastics, since neither creates the dent or tension that regular elastics do. Fix 2. Avoid pulling hair back into the exact same tight spot every single day, and instead vary the position slightly to give the hairline a rest. Fix 3. Loosen ponytails and buns by roughly 20% from how tight you'd normally wear them, since looser still holds shape without the pull. This one is everything. Fix 4. If you wear clips regularly, choose ones with rounded, padded edges rather than sharp metal teeth. Fix 5. Give your hairline a break entirely at least a few days a week by wearing hair down or in the loosest style you're comfortable with. If you're reaching for the same fabric elastic you've used for years, swap it for a silk scrunchie tonight. The difference in tension is immediate. If you're pulling your ponytail tight enough to feel it at your temples, swap that tightness for something noticeably gentler, because your hairline will thank you within weeks. You needed to hear this one most of all because it's the mistake with the simplest fix on this entire list, and yet almost nobody talks about it. Maintenance means keeping 2 or 3 silk scrunchies in rotation, so you're never tempted to reach for an old fabric elastic out of habit. Your natural elegance was never missing. It was just being quietly undone by a $5 hair tie. You've now heard all 7 cuts and all 3 mistakes to avoid, and everything you need is ready to put into action starting tomorrow morning. You just learned 7 rejuvenating haircuts and 3 costly mistakes that most women spend years discovering on their own, if they ever discover them at all. You didn't just watch a video. You changed how you'll look tomorrow morning and every morning after that. Tell me honestly, which of these 10 things were you already doing without realizing it? Drop your answer in the comments because I read every single one. Next time we're covering the one clothing choice that quietly adds 10 years the moment you walk into a room. Like this video, subscribe to Timeless Wisdom Path, and I'll see you in the next one.